Most people think medieval diets were all meat, bread, and bland porridge, but hidden in old gardens and along woodland trails were some of the most powerful superfoods you've never heard of. These weren't just survival staples. They were nutritious, resilient, and full of flavour. Today, these forgotten crops could thrive in your backyard. Let's explore 9 more medieval power plants you've probably never tasted, but definitely should. Ramson's, the medieval garlic, hidden in the woods. Also known as wild garlic, Ramsons were prized in medieval Europe for their bold flavour and medicinal power. Found in damp woodlands, they grow in thick carpets and were often foraged rather than farmed. With bright green leaves and star-shaped white flowers, Ramsons were eaten raw in salads or cooked like spinach. They contain allicin, the same powerful compound found in garlic, which was believed to cleanse the blood and ward off illness. Monks cultivated them in monastery gardens for both cooking and healing. Ramsons are easy to grow today in shady gardens and are one of the earliest spring greens to appear, making them a true seasonal treat. The entire plant is edible, from leaf to bulb, and it delivers a garlicky punch that rivals any store-bought clove. Just don't confuse them with poisonous lookalikes like lily of the valley, a mistake that turned more than one medieval stew into a funeral feast. Horseradish, the root that cleared sinuses and plagues. If flavour had a weaponized form in medieval Europe, it was horseradish. This fiery root was a staple in both kitchens and apothecaries, prized for its heat, preservation power, and medicinal use. It grew wild along riverbanks and was later cultivated in gardens for its reliability. Its sharp taste added zing to meats, sauces, and medicinal brews. People even believed it could ward off the plague. Horseradish roots were grated and mixed with vinegar to create potent condiments, and the leaves were sometimes used to wrap food for preservation. The plant could grow up to 5 feet tall and return each year with no replanting needed. Today, horseradish is still used in Eastern European cuisine, but most home gardeners overlook it. Medieval folks didn't. They knew that if your nose wasn't running after dinner, you weren't eating it right. Perpetual spinach, the leaf that refused to quit. Despite the name, perpetual spinach isn't actually spinach. It's a type of chard. But medieval farmers loved it for the same reason you will. It just keeps growing. While regular spinach bolts in heat, perpetual spinach produces greens for months, even through mild winters. It was a staple leafy green across Europe, especially among peasants who needed reliable, low-maintenance nutrition. Rich in iron, magnesium, and vitamins A and C, it was used in stews, pies, and even baked into bread. Gardeners appreciated how you could pick a few leaves at a time without killing the plant. It was also hardy against pests and poor soils, making it ideal for medieval backyards or modern ones. This was the kind of crop that earned its keep, feeding families long after more delicate vegetables had withered. If good King Henry was the spinach of kings, perpetual spinach was the spinach of survivors. Sorrel, the lemon-flavoured power green. Sorrel added a zesty kick to medieval dishes centuries before anyone had heard of lemon vinaigrette. Its tangy, citrus-like taste came from oxalic acid, and it grew wild across Europe in meadows and riverbanks. Medieval cooks loved using the young leaves in sauces, soups, and salads, while herbalists touted it for cooling fevers and treating scurvy. It was especially prized in spring, when fresh greens were scarce, and its sharp flavour helped mask the blandness of dried winter fare. The plant was so popular that many noble gardens cultivated special varieties. Sorrel thrives in cool weather and tolerates poor soil, making it an easy win for today's gardeners. A few leaves go a long way. Think medieval arugula with a punch. Plus, it's one of the few plants that actually makes your soup taste like it has lemon in it, even when lemons were a luxury only nobles could afford. Ground elder, the weed that fed a kingdom. Ground elder is the plant your modern lawn wants to murder, but medieval peasants saw it as dinner. Originally brought by Romans as a food crop, it became a reliable green in Europe for over 1,000 years. It spreads fast and aggressively, but that's exactly what made it valuable. You never had to worry about running out. The leaves were cooked like spinach or added to stews, and they're rich in vitamin C and potassium. Medicinally, it was used for treating gout and inflammation, hence its other name, goutweed. Today, gardeners curse it as invasive, but back then, it was a survival plant that demanded no care. Harvest it young for the best flavour. Older leaves can get bitter. If you can't beat it in your garden, eat it. The medieval mindset wasn't about fighting nature, it was about making lunch out of it. Mallow. Mallow was the medieval multitasker. Found along roadsides and in pastures, it was used for food, medicine, and even fabric dye. The soft leaves were cooked like spinach or added to soups, and the plant's mucilage, a gooey substance, was used to soothe sore throats, heal wounds, and calm upset stomachs. It was the original cough drop and stomach remedy rolled into one. Cooks made syrups and sweets from the roots, giving us the ancestor of marshmallows. Yes, really. Mallow grew everywhere and needed no pampering, which made it a favourite among peasants and monks alike. The flowers also attracted bees, which meant more honey for the village. While modern gardens ignore it, mallow is still a secret weapon for foragers and herbalists. It's not flashy, but it's the kind of plant that medieval folks trusted with their dinner and their digestion. Nettle, the sting that saved lives. Touching it might hurt, but eating it saved lives. Nettles were a superfood hiding behind a sting. Once cooked or dried, the stinging hairs vanished, revealing a leafy green rich in iron, calcium, magnesium, and vitamin A. Medieval people used it as a spring tonic after long winters of salted meat and root vegetables. The leaves went into soups, teas, and porridges. Its roots and seeds had medicinal uses too, treating everything from joint pain to hair loss. Some even spun fibres from nettle stalks into thread. It was the plant that did everything. Today, it's often dismissed as a nuisance weed, but if you've got a shady patch of yard and gloves, nettles are a nutritional goldmine. In medieval times, they didn't see a weed. They saw a wellness plan growing for free. Chervil, the forgotten French parsley of the past. Chervil was the elegant cousin of parsley, milder, sweeter, and once essential to medieval cooking. It was used in sauces, salads, and eggs, and believed to purify the blood and aid digestion. Often grown in monastery gardens, chervil had ceremonial uses too. It was part of Easter meals and springtime tonics, meant to renew the body. Unlike parsley, chervil doesn't like heat. It grows best in cool, shady spots, making it ideal for shoulder seasons. It fades fast in summer, which might explain why it faded from memory too. But in its time, chervil was everywhere, especially in France and England. Garden guides from the Middle Ages considered it a must-have herb. Bring it back and you'll get a delicate anise flavour that transforms soups and dressings, and a piece of forgotten culinary history. Winter savory, the herb with attitude. If thyme had a tougher, spicier cousin, it would be winter savory. This robust herb was beloved in medieval kitchens for its peppery punch and its usefulness in preserving meats. It flavoured beans, sausages, stews, and vinegar. Monks grew it for its medicinal powers, treating digestive problems, sore throats, and even as an aphrodisiac, according to some bold herbalists. Unlike many herbs, winter savory thrives in poor soil and cold weather, making it a reliable year-round spice. It's also a natural pest deterrent. Medieval gardeners planted it near crops to keep insects away. The name says it all. Winter savory was a flavour lifeline during the cold months when everything else had died back. Add it to your herb garden today, and you'll be reviving more than just a plant. You'll be seasoning like a 14th century chef. These weren't just garden fillers. Each of these forgotten superfoods was a lifeline for medieval communities. Resilient, nutritious, and packed with flavour. Modern gardening tends to overlook them, but they fed generations with nothing but dirt, rain, and know-how. Maybe it's time to raid history's pantry, because when you grow like the past, you just might eat better in the future.